Greetings, everyone. Welcome once again to Life More Abundant, LMA for short. Uh, Appreciate you tuning in or watching it as it's shown, or if you're going back and watching the on demand videos. Uh, Today, I think, is episode 34. It's amazing that I've done this many. Uh, Definitely, lack a lot in professionalism on the recordings and stuff. But it's the information that's most important to me to get out. We are sponsored by Grace Ministry at Rafa, also known as Trinitarian Grace International. And the mottos of our ministry is God is not mad at you, all are included, and the gospel is for all kinds of people in all kinds of places. And LMA being a Christ centered Trinitarian approach to recovery from substance abuse, abusive religions or relationships or whatever it is that you're struggling with. We all have struggles. The motto is for LMA is we're all recovering from something. We believe we've been restored, and our awareness of that restoration is lacking many times. Today, if you see above my head on the screen, I want to talk about expectation versus demands. This is talked about in the 12 step program, the AA 12 step program, which I've been affiliated with for many years. But we took that and borrowed from it uh, a lot to develop and fine tune our LMA, our Christ centered 12 step program. They have a meditation book with the 12 step program called Daily Reflections. I do believe the day, February 14th, I think, is the day that the reflection or meditation for that day is entitled Expectation versus Demands. And let me share that with you. It says, burn the idea into the consciousness of every man that he can get well regardless of anyone. Talking about overcoming addictions. The only condition is that he trusts God and clean house. And that's from the Alcoholics Anonymous text, which is known as the Big Book, page 98, if you want to check it out. In the comment that's written with it, it says, dealing with expectations is a frequent topic at meetings. It isn't wrong to expect progress of myself, good things from life, or decent treatment for others. Where I get into trouble is when my expectations become demands. I will fall short of what I wish to be, and situations will go in ways I do not like because people will let me down sometimes. The only question is, what am I going to do about it? Wallow in self pity or anger, retaliate, and make a bad situation worse? Or will I trust in God's power to bring blessings on the messes which I find myself? Will I ask Him what I should be learning? Do I keep on doing the right things I know how to do, no matter what? Do I take the time to share my faith and blessings with others? You know, that is from a so called, uh, non religious, non spiritual type program, as some people view the AA program, but it sounded pretty spiritual to me. It's talking about sharing your faith and realizing that we're not in control, and are we going to keep doing things to make matters worse? Do we do that? We tend to do that. We will do things, like it says, it's okay to have expectations when you're learning and growing and trying to do your best to do the right thing. It's okay to expect good things in return. What goes around comes around. What you put out, you get back. But sometimes it doesn't happen within what we think the timeline. It doesn't meet our timeline. We think, well, I've done all this. When is this going to change? Many, many years ago, I was in a bad situation, and I had a fellow who ended up being one of my earliest mentors, so to speak. And I was telling him I was being his helper and doing all kind of things and trying to help others. And I kept getting shot down and things weren't, I'd ask for things to get turned down. And finally I was, kind of down and out. And I was asking him, his name was Bob. And I said, Bob, man, I keep doing the right thing, but nothing seems to be going right. He said, Randy, he said, think about all the years that you were doing things you shouldn't be doing or you shouldn't have been doing, and all the things that you've troubles and messes that you caused and all that. He says, that started the pendulum, so to speak, swinging in a negative way. He said, because every action has a reaction, every action has a consequence. He says, and the pendulum is still swinging in that way because of all those actions. He said, but you keep doing the right thing. He says, sooner or later, and it may be later, but it will happen, that pendulum will max out and it'll start swinging back the other way as a result of all the right things you're doing. He says, and when it does, hang on and enjoy the ride. Well, now, many years later, he's passed on and gone now. I know exactly what he means. I kept doing the right thing most of the time and trying my best to look to the positive side of things. And no matter if I was surrounded by all types of negativity, and he was right, things started swinging the other way. And it led from that to where I am today. No, not rich financially. No, not, a well known speaker and theologian. No, but as a pretty solid man of God who happens to be involved in helping people with addiction issues of all kinds. I've helped start several programs. I've overseen programs for years, worked in the prison system in 2 different states, and this would have been looking at it through human eyes and with human understanding. People that know me will know that is no way. That is impossible. That you would have ended up doing what you do and working for the state in a prison and all those things that God said, watch this. Watch this. So, anyway, no matter where you are, what you got going on, just remember it's okay to have expectations when you're doing the right thing. The distinction between expectation and demands is crucial for our recovery, for our restoration, because healthy expectations like progress or decent treatment are acceptable. We expect to be treated decently. Demands are rigid, unyielding, often self centered, and can lead to resentment and frustration. We'd like to emphasize the importance of acceptance, surrendering to life's realities, trusting in a higher power, God, Father, Son, Spirit, to find peace and emotional sobriety. Stopping drinking if that's your thing, stopping doing other drugs if that's your thing, stopping certain behaviors if that's your thing. Those you stopping those are the first thing you do. But this also brings about peace and emotional sobriety. We all seek emotional sobriety. Some of us are more, quote, emotional than others. Some of us have anger issues. Some of us have delusional issues, actually not seeing things as they are, but as we just kind of create how we want to see it, even though it's not real. Expectation or hopes or anticipations about yourself, about others, and about situations. They can be realistic and lead to positive outcomes. These are expectations. Demands, like I said, are rigid, unyielding requirements that can cause resentment when they're not met. We can look around and see people that we think are being rewarded more so than us. And we'll get our carnal nature will kick in and say, I'm I do more for quote God. I do more for quote people. I do more for the community. I do fill in the blank than that person does. And look how they're being recognized and rewarded. And I'm sitting over here working my rear end off and I'm not getting anything. We this is what we do. So we feel like I demand to be recognized. I demand to be rewarded. That leads to resentments, a lot of conflict and disappointment. You know, the 12-step program highlights the importance of recognizing that demands are often rooted in fear and lack of trust. Fear and lack of trust. We do not trust God fully, and we fear God. I mean, what I mean by that, we have the concept that we're afraid of God. You know, the fear of God is not to be afraid of God. The fear of God is to revere, respect, and honor God. That's a healthy fear. We're not to be afraid of God because He's not a taskmaster. He's not a punisher. He is love. God is love. The 12-step program and LMA, we encourage that you surrender and accept what cannot change, what you can't change, promoting emotional sobriety and spiritual growth. You know, living with demands, demanding that I get what I got coming. Be careful about that one because you just might get it. Create a state of constant frustration and anxiety, hindering whatever you're working on, recovering, or being healed from. Hoping for progress, healthy expectation can be hoping for progress in your recovery program. A demand believing one has a right to have a specific outcome or feeling regardless of circumstances. A healthy acceptance is recognize that people will sometimes disappoint and that life doesn't always go as planned. People will disappoint you sometimes, no matter how close they are or who they are. Is this not true? But now look in the mirror. We disappoint those around us at times, or have, and will. Some takeaways from what I'm talking about here. Releasing demands and embracing acceptance is essential for emotional sobriety. You must have emotional sobriety if you're going to have sobriety from whatever malady or addiction you're struggling with. And spiritual growth, emotional sobriety, and spiritual growth. Also, trusting in God and focusing on what one can control can help navigate life's challenges with more, equality or whatever. It provides a framework for understanding and addressing the detrimental effects of demands, fostering a more balanced and fulfilling life. Now, also, the distinction, let's see. Once again, I'll remind you the distinction between expectation and demands is crucial for our recovery, for our spiritual growth. Now, let me bring some scriptures into this to kind of support what we're talking about here. As you see on the screen, Jeremiah 29:11, we'll come back to that. Isaiah 64:3 says, this is today I'm using the Living Bible. So it was before you, when you came down For you did awesome things beyond our expectations, and how the mountains quake. Talking about God, you created everything. You did things beyond our expectations. See, expectations are great, but just remember, our expectations sometimes are not near what God has in store for us. Psalm 106:14-6. But demanded here, it starts with the but demanded better food. This is folks when they were in the wilderness and Moses had led them out of captivity in Egypt, and they were in the desert and they were eating manna. They'd gotten sick of that, so they demanded better food, testing God's patience to the breaking point. So he gave them their demands, but sent them leanness in their souls. They were envious of Moses, yes, and Aaron too, the man anointed by God. We talk about this mankind. They had been delivered from a history and an ongoing for a long time bondage by the Egyptians and being mistreated. And here they are, God's helping lead them away on the way to the quote promised land. And then they started demanding this and demanding that. And as we do, they said, okay, I'll do that. But it veered them away from their spiritual growth, is what I get out of this. He sent them leanness in their souls. In other words, I'm going to give you this physical stuff, and you enjoy that. We do that too in our personal recovery from whatever it is you're working on. We want to feel this physical fix. We want to know, well, let me see. I got to see that I'm making progress. Sometimes we're making progress and we don't see it until after it's happened and we look back and we see. Those around us will be seeing it before we do. You understand what I'm saying? John 1:17 in the New Testament. For Moses gave us only the law with its rigid demands and merciless justice, while Jesus brought us loving forgiveness as well. Same type of thing. We had to have those rules and regulations with their demands that you do this and do that. And Jesus came along and cleaned all that up and says, okay, relax. You don't have to do that. You can't keep those rules anyway. You never, even if we have them, even when they had those, the Old Testament regulations, the folks never kept it like they're supposed to. They couldn't do it. But now, there's people now that have religions that are very strict with rules and regulations, and they'll try to make you think that the leaders will try to make you think I'm the example. You're falling short because you're not doing A, B, or C. Don't get caught in that. Jesus brought forgiveness, ongoing forgiveness, forgiveness for yesterday, forgiveness for today, forgiveness for tomorrow. That's what Jesus brought. One of the things. Luke 11:46. Yes, said Jesus, the same horrors await you, for you crush men beneath impossible demands. He's talking about these religious leaders who have this yoke of bondage on the people. They were having to follow after all those rules or being told that they had to. He says, you crush men beneath impossible religious demands, demands that you yourself never think of trying to keep. Think about that. That goes on today. You have some leaders in the quote religious world. They don't keep those rules and regulations, but they want you to believe that you have to. It's an amazing thing how we took the concept of Father, Son, Spirit. I say we, mankind, and we, especially in the Western world, but other places too, we turned it into a business transaction. We turned it into, well, God, I'm going to do this. I'm going to tithe and I'm going to do this. And I'm going to, work at the soup kitchen. I'm going to do all these things and you're going to give me back. uh, all kind of stuff. Relax. If you're led to do a good deed, do it. If someone tells you you have to do a certain good deed, only do it if you feel led to do it. You don't have to get involved in every program that comes across the plate at churches and that kind of stuff. Matthew 22:36-34. Sir, which is the most important command in the laws of Moses? They're testing Jesus here. And Jesus replied, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. The second most important is similar. Love your neighbor as much as you love yourself. All the other commandments and all the demands of the prophets stem from these two laws and are fulfilled if you obey them. Keep only these, and you will find that you are obeying the others. You know what he said? You don't have to worry about all them rules and regulations. And also, remember, it says to love your neighbor as yourself. Love the Lord thy God with all your heart and your neighbor as yourself. If you do not love yourself, if you look at yourself as being like a lot of people in addiction do, look at yourself as being a piece of crap, a failure, a nobody, then how in the world can you love your neighbor? Because it says to love your neighbor as you love yourself. So how can I love my neighbor if I don't love myself? Think about that. Think about that. As we start closing in on the end of today's episode, the last scripture I have is a very popular one, but sometimes it's just put on t-shirts and all these kind of things. But just really think about it for a few minutes. Jeremiah 29:11. God telling me and you, for I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. They are plans for good, not for evil, to give you a future and a hope. It's not to he don't have a plan to threaten us. He doesn't have a plan to set us up for rejection. He doesn't have a plan to cast us into eternal torment or to kill us or to punish us. He says he has plans for good and not for evil. He's come to save us, not to condemn us. He died to show how much he loved us. He didn't die to protect us from God's wrath. God wasn't, a lot of people have that concept, that God would put all that punishment that he wanted to put on us, he put it on Christ. They went through that whole deal to show us just how much we are loved. And we're talking with a friend this morning. All this was not plan B. Everything didn't get screwed up in the Garden of Eden, so to speak. And all of a sudden, he had to come up with a plan B. God knew that when he gave us free will that we were going to screw it up. He had the plan already in place. We're living out plan A. There's not a plan B. Plan A is he was going to eventually bring all men and women, all mankind unto himself and take us into eternity. As my friend, theologian Ricky Ramos told me many years ago, we were talking about some of this, discussing some of the things of Karl Barth and his beliefs. And anyway, and I was kind of like, well, I just don't know. He said, Randy, think about this. We created time. We created clocks. We created years, days, months, weeks, all that, minutes, seconds. God has eternity. Time does nothing to him. He has eternity to work out his plan. And his plan is for good and not evil, to give us a future and a hope. everybody that gets wrapped in, well, we got to get everybody saved before he has eternity to work it out. He has eternity to work it out. And God's plan for you and I will not be denied. Whatever it is we're struggling with today, God is with us and helping us work through that. Whatever it is, look at me. Whatever it is you're doing that you know you shouldn't be doing, stop it. Stop it right now. And look at this scripture and know that the God of the universe is telling you right now that he has plans for good and not evil. And he has plans for a wonderful future and a hope all the way into eternity. We are forgiven for yesterday. We're forgiven for today. We're forgiven into the future. Live in the now. Live in this eternal now. We are walking this world in the eternal now. Right now is eternity. The flesh is deteriorating. We're all growing older in the flesh, and it will eventually go away. And all the impurities that we have, I believe, will be burned away, and we'll be in the presence of God and know the purest love that ever existed. Remember, expectation versus demands. It's okay to expect good things from certain actions. It's not okay to turn them into demands. Remember, from Grace Ministry Rafa, also known as Trinitarian Grace International, that God is not mad at you. All are included. And the gospel, which is Jesus Christ, is for all kinds of people in all kinds of places. And we are all recovering from something. We all have things that we're struggling to get over. So let's ponder this. Let's turn things into healthy expectations and move away from unhealthy demands. Until we meet again,